Chapter 12. We must now understand the explanation of the aforementioned concept of the first Tzimtzum and the aspect of the Rishimu impression which remained. Although it is known to those who are familiar with these concepts, nonetheless there are many particular details in it. One must delve very deeply into this matter, for it is pivotal to true union with the essential self of the infinite light. That is, the understanding of this is pivotal to the realization of how everything, even the entirety of the chaining down of the Kav, is literally as nothing before him. This should be contemplated to the point that a person is capable of focusing his desire with self-sacrifice upon the essential self of the infinite light alone. This is as stated, "You are He, Hashem, alone," etc. This is also the meaning of "the King who is exalted alone," which refers to the aspect of Malchut, of the infinite before the Tzimtzum. That is, he is exalted even over the days of the world of Adam Kadmon, which are called the days of antiquity, as previously mentioned. This is also the explanation of the verse, "The heavens and the heavens of the heavens cannot contain you." The heavens refers to the aspect of the general encompassing light which is following the Tzimtzum. The heavens of the heavens refers to the infinite light before the Tzimtzum. They cannot contain you, even in a way of a vessel for a vessel, as in he engraved an engraving in the upper purity. This will suffice for those of understanding. This concept is further emphasized by the verse, "Who have I in the heavens but you? And there is none upon the earth that I desire besides you." Who have I in the heavens refers to the general encompassing light before the Tzimtzum, which is called the heavens of the heavens. There is none upon earth that I desire beside you refers to the aspect of the Kav v'chut, the line and thread, which is the aspect of the general inner pervading light. Now, as known to those who have done the contemplation, there are various different analogies and ways to explain the matter of the Tzimtzum, the restraint, which is called the empty place. However, they all arrive at one general theme, that in order for the infinite light to be expressed in a limited way in the aspect of a line, it was necessary for him to restrain his essential light so that it would remain concealed in his essential self. This is necessary so that not all of it would shine forth, but only a tiny amount. This is in order that light could afterwards be drawn down into revelation in a way of a qualitative leap of diminished value. This is analogous to the brilliance of a deep and broad concept as it exists in the essential self of the teacher. In order for him to draw this concept to the student, who is not intellectually comparable to him, the teacher must conceal the entire depth of his comprehension within himself, so that all that is left is just an aspect of an impression which is like a single point from all the depth and breadth. This is not to say that his understanding was completely withdrawn and concealed. Rather, it is like one who relates a teaching in a brief way. He has the entire depth and breadth of the logical arguments in his intellect, only that during the time that he states his ruling briefly, they are temporarily included and concealed in his essential self. However, as soon as he is questioned about it, he can expand on the subject. Only that in order for the student to understand by way of this short ruling, he conceals the depth and breadth of it within himself temporarily, as explained elsewhere at length. Now the impression which remained like a point is not a complete and true Tzimtzum restraint. A true and complete Tzimtzum would be like one who completely withdraws revelation and completely conceals, in which case the student lacks all revelation. Rather, the explanation of the matter is that included in this short ruling is the entire length. Not a single thing is missing, not even half a thing. This is similar to how the short rulings of the Mishnah include the entire length of the logical debate of the Talmud. This is likewise similar to how the entire logical debate is not concealed from one who knows it, even while he reviews it to himself briefly. We find that his knowledge of the length encompasses the entire revelation of the brief teaching in a concealed way. However, it is not completely withdrawn, as in the case of forgetfulness or the like, as explained elsewhere at length. The second type of analogy, which is the life of the soul as it is invested in the body, also brings out the same point as above. This is that in order for there to be a change from the essential spiritual life of the soul to a physical life of flesh, it is necessary for there to be an initial concealment and diminishment of the light of the soul. This is because there is no comparison between them. Nonetheless, the soul is affected by the occurrences of the body. Therefore, even the light of the physical life force is connected and bound with the spiritual light of the essential. This is similar to how the aforementioned physical growth is bound to the spiritual power of growth. However, when one's physical limb becomes severed, God forbid, this does not cause a loss to the spiritual light and life force of that limb. The proof of this is from the fact that a blind person can give birth to a whole person as known. This shows that the spiritual life force is merely concealed, but it still exists, hovering over the physical life force of the body. This is called tselem ish, the form of man. This is similar to how the aforementioned breadth and length of knowledge, which is concealed, encompasses the brief teaching, etc. All of this is explained elsewhere at length. Likewise, when the spiritual power of movement comes into an actual physical movement, it becomes constrained within itself. Nonetheless, the physical movement is connected and bound to the spiritual power of movement. There are many other examples of this as well, such as the matter of having insight into a particular concept which comes from the power of conceptualization of his soul, which rests upon him in a concealed fashion. However, we must now understand the aspect of the Rishimu, the impression, which indicates the withdrawal of everything into concealment so that only an impression of everything remains. This is better understood by other analogies and matters. For example, it is like the blueprint that the architect draws. He is capable of constructing the entire building from the small lines of the blueprint. The entire length of the construction is included briefly in the blueprint. Another example of a Rishimu impression is like someone who makes a sign for himself as a memory aid. The sign or mnemonic has no actual relation to the essence of the matter, but is merely a memory aid as stated, make signs for yourself. This is a much greater concealment than the aforementioned allegory of one who teaches the summary of the law, which includes the entire logic within it. For in that example, there is at least some relationship between the short summary and the lengthy explanation. There is another analogy for this Rishimu, impression, which implies an even greater tzimtzum, restraint and concealment. It is like a person who throws a stone. The power which propels it is separate from the essential self of the thrower. Nonetheless, the entire power of movement is invested within the stone in a concealed fashion. However, there is a great distance of separation from the essential power of movement which is in the hand. In contrast, this is not the case with the power of movement itself when he physically moves himself. In this case, it is vested within the physical in a more revealed manner as mentioned previously. There is an analogy of even greater concealment than this example of the thrown object, which is similar to the concept of the impression that one makes only as a reminder. This is like when someone hints with his hand to a very deep concept or idea. The physical movement is totally separate from the spiritual thought, but nonetheless the concept is understood through the movement. An even greater concealment is how the light of an intellectual concept is invested within the physical movements of one's fingers when he writes it down, as explained elsewhere at length. Now, all of the above bring out the same theme as mentioned above. This is that the aspect of the essence remains concealed and included within the impression and point. This will suffice for those of understanding.